Shaswaroop. The Supreme Court has pressed pause on a policy that was meant to address inequality but has instead ignited a deeper national debate on unity. The Supreme Court today stated the implementation of the UGC's equity norms aimed at addressing caste-based discrimination in higher education. While the intent behind the regulations was projected as corrective, even progressive, the court's observations have raised constitutional red flags. What are they? The message from the bench is clear. Equity cannot be pursued at the cost of equality. Now, despite the government assuring against the misuse of the law, the Supreme Court today questioned the vagueness of the norms and raised alarm over its possible misuse. The upper castes and the opposition have welcomed the order alike, and the big question still remains: will the government finally put unity first? That's what we take up with our guests in just a bit. But the first main contentions, the three of them in fact raised by the Supreme Court today, were that the provisions are vague and capable of misuse. In fact, the top court has asked, why is caste-based discrimination separately defined when the definition of discrimination takes care of all forms of discriminatory treatment, and why ragging has been left out of the regulations? So, as far as the UGC row is concerned, will NDA accept that unity is supreme for our country? That's the question we'll be posing to our guests.
The Honorable Supreme Court, in exercise of powers under Article 142, has directed that UGC Regulations 2012 will be in operation till further order.
जिस तरीके से प्रोटेस्ट चल रहा है और सुप्रीम कोर्ट की तरफ से आपको लगता है कि कुछ राहत मिली है तमाम स्टूडेंट?
बिल्कुल हम बहुत थैंकफुल हैं सुप्रीम कोर्ट का।
इस तरह की चीजें नहीं आनी चाहिए कि स्टूडेंट में इतना डिफरेंसेस आ जाए, इतनी नफरत आ जाए कि लोग एक दूसरे को नफरत की नजर से देखें। तो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन किसी भी स्टूडेंट के साथ नहीं होना चाहिए।
भारतीय जनता पार्टी सरकार के उस सिद्धांत को भूल गई है। सरकार का काम है कहीं अशांति हो तो शांति पैदा करें, पर ये तो वर्ग के नाम पे, जाति के नाम पे, धर्म के नाम पे देश में आग लगाते हैं।
Let me introduce my esteemed guests today. I'm joined in by Shaina NC, who's a spokesperson of the Shiv Sena Shinde faction. Also joined in by Mr. Saeed Hafiz, who's a spokesperson of the DMK. Sunny Dewan, who's a political analyst. Also joined in by Mr. Akhil Swami, a political analyst. Many thanks to you all for joining in. Mr. Akhil Swami, I'll let you open the debate and the discussion for today. What, in your understanding, was equity meant for? Shouldn't that also be about equality in terms of opportunities, or is the government also meant to ensure outcomes, even if they were to be about outcomes with regards to what's happening on college campuses?
See, after the judgment of the Supreme Court, I can only conclude one thing, that Government of India since 2014 makes all laws without any thinking, and they make vague laws which are not well thought of and without consultation with anybody. That happened with farmers' bills, and that has happened with this particular law also. What Pramod Tiwari had said, Pramod Tiwari says that the government has to intervene then when there is an unrest. The problem with BJP is that wherever they see that there is some peace and tranquility, they want to disturb it. So this particular act was basically brought to bring in a fight between the forward classes and backward classes. And that is why they thought that because the forward classes vote we always get, we don't have any problem, they will still keep voting for us. And in this particular way, we will be able to counter what Akhilesh Yadav talks about PDA and Rahul Gandhi is talking about caste census. And that is why we will be able to win the votes of forward classes and backward classes both. Now, the basic point is that any law which the government of India should bring has to be well thought of. All laws since last 11 years, they have brought without any thinking. Like demonetization.
Okay, so that is exactly what the Supreme Court has said, and in fact, I'm running short of time given that we were on the beating retreat ceremony as well. So let me quickly bring in Sunny Dewan as well. Sunny, how do you weigh in on the word that's coming from the top court about how these guidelines have to be properly formulated and they are vague? So it's not just about general category, and also the larger question which we should not miss out on is why should discrimination be referred to as caste-based discrimination? Even general category students are prone to discrimination.
Good evening, everyone. Akanksha, Supreme Court stayed this piece of paper, and they said it is vague, and secondly, they said it hasn't mentioned the ragging criteria. And let me tell you, I'm here to question the merit of this observation by the Honorable Supreme Court. Like, the Act of Parliament is already been placed in 2009 against the ragging, and this was a mere UGC regulation which was protecting the other backward caste classes which were not earlier protected in any condition. It is not a criminal act, first of all. And by the way, why government made such vagueness into this piece of paper? They made it because they wanted this India to be divided. And let me just very specifically mention the Parliamentary Committee Chairman Digvijay Singh has mentioned that they wanted in the recommendation number D that UGC has to define the discrimination, has to define the crimes, do not leave any loophole. But why did government or UGC went with these loopholes which could not stand the scrutiny of the Supreme Court? I will say this is not a judicial stay, it is a political murder. It's a political murder, and it's a paper tiger. And we do not want this paper tiger. We want an act of parliament. We want an act of parliament where the discrimination has to be like against OBC and SC/ST. We want a Rohit Act where the discrimination must not be there. And let me tell you very urgently, the Supreme Court said, are you going backward from the casteless society? I don't know where our Honorable Chief Justice of India lives. The people of this meritorious community, they abuse Prime Minister of India by calling him Teli. Can't you see this is the reality of India? There were not people from the other OBC, SC/ST who were abusing the people from the greenhouse category. It is those who are demeaning the SC/ST, OBC everyday basis, calling them the reservation category, calling them by their caste. And even the education minister, who is an OBC, he's been abused by the quote-unquote
Sunny Dewan, does that give an RJD spokesperson like Kanchan Yadav the right to say that general category students should be falsely framed because they did not fight for the rights of the OBCs, SCs and STs? That's how general category students are going to suffer now, because it gives the rights to malicious intents of opposition now arming up against general category students as well. What do you have to say to that?
Yes.
Something,
Kanchan Yadav, whatever said Kanchan Yadav, I'm not here to defend her. But the point
but that's also what is happening. Okay, Shaina, would you like to come in on that point? I said I'm running short of time. Let's give other panelists also.
This is not a criminal act.
Shaina,
it is a civil
Shaina, I'm sure you'd like to weigh in on what Sunny is saying. Please come in on that.
See, firstly, what is the UGC?
Sunny, allow her to speak.
The University Grants Commission,
we are angry.
the regulations for 2026 aim to protect. Sir, you've been given your chance. Here, somebody else's say. The aim is only to prevent caste-based discrimination.
And today we are here to
Sunny Dewan, I am going to appreciate if you allow for equality to prevail even on discussions. Please.
Yeah.
Shaina.
I was just going to
cannot
say
be
that.
treated equally.
So you will eat into the time of the other panelists. I'm afraid I'll have to mute you if you do not allow other panelists time to speak. I'm running short of time. Please let's have a cumulative, well-rounded discussion.
The regulations of 2026 aim to prevent caste-based discrimination and promote inclusivity. And this is only for higher education institutes. Now, if we look at the equal opportunity centers, it's mandatory to set up in institutions to handle complaints and promote inclusivity. If we look at the equities committee, it's the first time ever that women and physically challenged have been included. So it includes representatives from the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, the OBCs, but also women and people with disabilities. There is a 24/7 helpline for reporting any discrimination incidents. There are penalties if institutions face any or if they do any wrong funding or any underhand dealing, and the restrictions for non-compliance. And when you are monitoring, the UGC will track all of the above. And this is not as you are positioning Dharmendra Pradhan ji or the BJP. This is by the Supreme Court guidelines. And if the UGC has only one agenda, which is to have an inclusive higher education with all systems in place for complaints, for helplines, for people who have done wrong, to bring it to the public domain, I don't understand that why we will allow anyone to misuse a law when the idea of the law is to make sure that everyone is addressed.
So, Shaina, one also
heard.
has to, take note of the fact that this can't be just about discrimination based on caste. There's also an omission of ragging. Many are talking about why hasn't ragging been mentioned.
But
that I
has been
concede.
addressed by
Ragging
the
should have been
Parliamentary
included.
Act that has been
But
already
it's
been
not as if
included
there
in the
isn't.
Parliamentary Act.
Said
It's been
Hafiz,
included
would you
in the
like to come in?
Parliamentary
Because
Act in
see, the
2009.
allegation now coming against the opposition is that the opposition is rather hypocritical. They always resort to arguments whenever it suits political convenience, because whether it comes to Waqf amendment, it was repealed under the Modi government, or even say the rights of the OBCs or the SC/STs, it is the opposition, say primarily the Congress party in Karnataka, which wants to dilute those very rights only to promote their own appeasement agenda for the Muslims. Said Hafiz.
First of all, the regulations from the UGC are half-hearted. It is incomplete because of its vagueness. Then coming to the judgment of the Supreme Court saying it's a casteless society, I will give you an example where the review committee, a member of the review committee involved in the remission or the premature release of the rapist of the Bilkis Banu and the killers of its family, of her family, MLA, a legislator, who came out and said, these people who are subjected to premature release belong to a high privileged caste. That is the privilege that one particular caste or the group of caste they get in this country. Whereas there is an entire section of the society who are even finding it difficult to continue to stay in an educational institute. This reality has to be seen, and it is a reality in this country. It is this background that a regulation had come, which has been quashed by the Supreme Court today. Now the question to the BJP, if they are sincere and genuine to the cause of ending this inequality in the campuses, I think the BJP should come up and show the same amount of commitment they showed when they came up with the NCT
All
Act.
right. All right. So, Shaina, I'll give you a quick 30 seconds for closing thoughts, because you, as an ally to the BJP, in Maharashtra also, you'll perhaps be the best person to weigh in on what was the need for these UGC guidelines, that too at a time when the SC/ST Act already exists. How do you ensure a society which is nationalist, which is also, if we talk about Hindutva politics also, on one hand, the BJP wants to talk about, say, bringing the Hindutva vote together or electorate together, and on the other hand, there's this paradox.
So see, the agenda of the government is obviously to adhere to what the guidelines of the court have been. But if we look at caste-based discrimination, how do we make sure that we can keep people in campuses united? And as is India, which is Anekta Mein Ekta. And if we need to have a casteless society and we need to have, people from various categories, that's why the government has even included women, which is 50% of the electorate, has included the physically disabled. Has anyone even thought of that earlier? Now, if Justice Suryakant and Justice Bagchi have given whatever they feel are the reasons that should be included, it's not as if the government is closed and not interested in coming up with conclusive solutions.
I'll have to leave it at that. But as I also quoted the example of the RJD spokesperson Kanchan Yadav, many will now be arming themselves against the general category students, and one cannot use such kind of guidelines to target the ones. Let law prevail equally. And with that, many thanks to our panelists for joining in. In fact, Akhil Swami stays with me for the next discussion.